Okay, I'm B.B. Foster. I live on Stansfield Road, 10115 Stansfield Road. I've been running this association since around 2010 when we started up. So I'm still doing it, but due to COVID, we didn't have meetings during those times, and this is the first one we have it since the lockdown, because we didn't feel safe right now as it is. I tried to keep with the face mask and do it. I invited the county council, and these are the county council representatives. Would you don't mind to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hello, my name is Matt Plum. I'm here on behalf of Councilmember Deb Young, so District 4.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, my name is Matt Plum. I'm a District 8 for the Howard County Council. So I am here on behalf of Councilmember Deb Young. And just wanted to thank BB for inviting us to the meeting. So we're appreciative, glad I could be here. And I'm looking forward to hearing what's on your mind, what your concerns are. Thank you.
I'm Paige Goldshire. I'm a District 8 for Councilwoman Rigby. So that's District 3. And yeah, I'm excited to see how we can help get more involved.
Okay. The agenda was, I was supposed to write it, but I don't have the stuff to write it up on the board. The agenda was, we're going to talk about speeding along our roads and speed bumps. That's one item. And the second item is vagrancy. I guess most of it is along that way on Route 1. And some started to be on Pilgrim Road, and you could see some around elsewhere. And why I said I decided to add vagrancy to the agenda is that one night I had an experience with the vagrancy in our community at the 7-Eleven gas station. Hi, Michelle and Marco, good evening. Would mind introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle B. Down. I'm the secretary for the association. Marco.
Yeah, Marco, you doing?
Yeah, I decided to put vagrancy because I see it started to grow. And the vagrancy happened on a very, very cold night. And I was shocked. And fortunately, my husband was with me. And I wanted to intervene, but he dragged me away. I said, if you weren't here, I would have intervened and take some pictures. But he dragged me away. I said, something, that could have been me there, and I would have needed somebody to rescue me. So that's why I put that on the agenda. I did put some notices outside, on the roadside, especially in my vicinity, about the meeting. I haven't seen anybody, but a woman by the name of Stephanie Brown. I don't know if you know her.
From Emerson?
No, I don't know if she's from Emerson, but I think she was here when they had some meeting on the 3rd something of January, on the 31st or the 30th of January, with traffic and engineering or something pertaining to speed bumps on Old Scottsville Road. I don't know if you know of her. Okay. However, I'm not the one to have the last say because Michelle and Marco, they live in the same vicinity I live in. And whenever anybody asks me about speed bumps or so on the road, I told them to come to the meeting because this is where we would really talk about what we need and what we don't need in my area. And since they're not here, well, I'm not going to say anything. They need to come and say it themselves here. So, Michelle, I don't know if you have anything to add to the speed bumps that was proposed or anything you prefer. For me, I'm telling you the truth, Michelle. When we first moved in here in 1999, on the same Stansfield Road, there were cops that given out tickets along Stansfield Road and Old Scottsville Road and All Saints Road in the High Ridge area. And that eliminated the speeding because people started to be alert with cops giving out tickets. So I don't know, to me I prefer the county make money instead of spending money to make the speed bumps. Because when people start, the pockets start hurt, they would stop. So that's my take on it. I don't know if you have any take about the speed bumps, but one of the reasons when you look at the people that are speeding are the people way back from past towards the end of Old Scottsville Road. Another way that the speed could be eliminated rather than putting speed bumps is for the county to open up at the back there, so they have a place from 216 they could drive into that subsection. Because if you take a look at the junction of Stansfield Road and Old Scottsville Road there, a little way down, if something happened there and fire engine and a whole commotion happened there, those people at the back there cannot come out, and at least about more than 2,000 people live at the back there. So you guys have the records, you could check it. It's at the junction of Stansfield Road and Old Scottsville Road there. A little pass with all the new development. They have at least over 2,000, 3,000 people. They cannot come out from that subsection. So, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Okay, and you are?
Linda Cassie.
Nice meeting you. I'm in Boston. You just started the meeting. Introduce yourself, please.
Oh.
Tell where you live.
I'm Linda Cassie. I am on Bremont Court.
So we're talking about my subsection. We will come to you.
Okay.
So we need either to do two things. Either open up the road, put a road leading towards 216 into that, joining on to Old Scottsville Road up there instead of that circle, so those people could come out on that end, so it would ease the traffic out on the front end, and at the same time help the county make money to pay for that by giving some tickets, some speeding tickets. Now, the county may need to change the rule because nothing is etched in stone that we have to carry on. They said you cannot put speed camera there because of the rule. Maybe the county need to change that rule that they could put the speed camera on certain area where needed.
I think it's a state rule.
It's a
Or
state
I think
rule?
it's a state law.
Well, we need to get the zoning on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you mentioned it's a state rule.
I think the county actually tried, Matt, you might know more. I think the county tried to work with the state delegation last session about changing that, because I know that
Oh, they did?
George's, they weren't successful because the state wasn't interested. But Prince George's and Montgomery County do have the exception to it, so that they can put the speed cameras on, I think it's any residential road that's under 35 miles an hour.
Okay.
But it is something that the county is looking into,
Okay.
working with the state to kind of figure that
So,
out.
anytime you see that issue come up to help pass that rule, contact me please,
Yeah.
because I'll be on board on that one.
What's the reasoning for not allowing
The speed bumps?
it? No, the speed cameras.
Okay.
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know why. I think it's just Matt, do you know?
I'm not aware of the origin of it. I mean, so we do currently have it within school zones, right? So,
Yeah, I was being told that only school zone, but they need to make some exception to the rule that we could get that done up, because you don't want confrontation with the police. Right now, everybody is so emotional that a little thing would just make them flare up with the police. And so too is the police. They're so nervous that they don't, sometimes you look at their face and they just look intimidated. They don't know how to handle the situation, but they try. So it cut both ways. Anybody else have anything to talk about?
Can I just expand on that a little bit? Do either of you, or let me start out this way. My perception is that there's much less Howard County police presence in the North Laurel area than there has been in the past. And that's just an observation from somebody that walks Whiskey Bottom Road frequently, and the amount of people going, I'm not talking about 5 or 10 miles an hour over the limit. I'm talking about drag racers, right? They're almost daily, and they're they just have no fear, because they know there's no Howard County police anywhere in the area.
I'm not sure there's any Howard County police still working. I can't remember.
And why do you need a discussion on that? Because that's your...
Yeah, that is important to me. I have to say, first I have to preface what I'm saying is, I've been living in my home for over 20 years, but my primary life has been spent in Montgomery County. That's where I was connected. So I was never really part of this community. So hence, I've been working from home for the last 3 years, and I'm starting to be around more. My church is now in Howard County, so I'm getting to learn the ways of the roads, or I could tell you from the back of my hand from Montgomery County. But anyway, so I'm here now and trying to see what I can do to make, my whatever skill set I may have. So one of the things that was really attractive to me was when they said, oh man, I was here when this was built, obviously, I've been living here 20 years, but I was really looking forward to the pool. I mean, I'm old, I'm almost retired and got really bad arthritis, and of course it's a selfish thing, I want the pool. So when the pool was supposed to be, we had a date, and then all of a sudden it was stopped because the money was put someplace else. So that's really important. I think we need it.
I must be living in a bubble. I never heard there was ever supposed to be a pool.
Oh, no. Yeah. We were supposed to have a pool.
I moved here from Columbia. I lived in Columbia for 15 or so years. And I moved here in '06. So I came here right behind the implementation of base realignment and closure, if anybody remembers.
Yeah,
Oh,
Brown.
yeah.
And there were promises of wonderful things in this area,
Yeah.
which is why I moved here.
Yeah.
But right after I moved here, the construction market took a dive and everything stopped.
Well, there was supposed to be like 200,000 employees going into Fort Meade
Yeah.
of different agencies.
But
They all couldn't have been NSA agents.
They
It's
were,
simpler.
no, they were coming from, I was working for the Army at the time, so they were just shifting different missions around, so.
Base alignment.
Yeah,
Base
so
alignment.
they were gonna redo the entire Route 1 corridor.
Yeah.
And they started with the town center, because it used to be a mall.
Right.
And it was supposed, Laurel Lakes was supposed to connect, and they have walkovers, and, because I'm in Columbia, in my 2-bedroom townhouse, reading about all the fantastic things that were supposed to happen in this area. And then, so I go and buy a house down here, and as soon as I moved in, all productivity and improvements stopped. There was a series of fires set on Route 1 in '07. and it burned down a lot of the existing infrastructure there. And so now it just sits empty. Yeah.
Well, going back to the swimming pool, I was in the making of the swimming pool when this was initiated with North Laurel Civic Association, when it was Patsy was running it, Patsy Yingling, and Donna Zeus, and Tom Flint and them. And I remember going up to one of the schools on a cold winter night to sign the petition. And one of the things that was promised here, and I spoke to Jim Roby about it. Ken Allman was the one who promised it, and I had a walk-through over here. When they had a walk-through and here was Billy, I still have the hard hat, and I think it was a t-shirt they gave me, but I have what they gave me. I said I'm going to give it away to somebody eventually who will cherish this thing. So, yes, we're going to get a swimming pool, and yes, the swimming pool is going to be. Allman promised, Roby promised it, and Allman said it would come later. Then later, Kettleman came in, and he said, okay, by 2022 we're going to get it. And I told Kettleman, I might die, and I won't get the swimming pool. So when she told me about the swimming pool, I said, well, you could come and add your 2 cents to this, but this community is still looking forward for the swimming pool.
Yeah, we had a groundbreaking date from what I understood, and then when it was canceled is when I reached out to, I think her name is Rigby, was it? Whoever it was, and the response that I got was that the funding was reallocated to something in Ellicott City.
Yeah, so,
Just not nice.
okay, here comes.
So,
But, you know.
I'm intimately familiar. So first off, I got to explain a conflict of interest. I'm the legislative chair and former PTA council president.
Okay.
We're constantly advocating for school construction, so that's a competitor for the money for the pools. However, I'm also a big advocate for the adequate public facilities ordinance and mitigation fees, which developers are supposed to pay so that the schools are not a competitor for resources.
Gotcha.
The capital budget just came out Friday, again with zeros next to the pool, but an out year when it'll eventually occur, and those out years slide from left to right. But this community center was originally acquired, the entire property. This is a family property that got turned over in the 30s. And they didn't even have enough money for the community center. So they sold off land to the Du Bois company, Cornerstone Homes, and developed all along there. We lost property on this, supposedly to fund the pool. I was on the design committee for the pool.
The pool, no one
It
knew
wasn't
about.
funded as well as it was downsized. They brought out a lot of people to try to make it a single-use entity instead of a regional facility. I know we're in competition with the Columbia Association,
Yeah.
as well as the other pool way up in Ellicott City.
Yeah.
But where I'm going with all this, I highly encourage all of you to talk at testimony for the capital budgets, how important this is, and also for all the things that compete with it.
Yeah.
So that it isn't we want a pool and not a school. It's we want
Absolutely.
both.
We want both, yeah, and I just
And,
thought that was something that is up for consideration, to make sure that kids know how to swim. And I'm like, okay, what schools have pools? But the other thing that I thought would be feasible for us in the interim is to at least allow us to be able to have in-state tuition or cost for the Montgomery County pool. This Laurel area, PG County gets reduced rates, but we don't get it in Howard County, to be able to use the one that's in Montgomery County.
The West Laurel Swim Club, right?
No, not West Laurel. I'm talking about the,
Main Street here has a pool when you go down Main Street.
Yeah,
crossover.
that's in Prince George's
That's-
County, that's the city
Yeah,
of Laurel.
I'm talking about the big
You're talking the
center.
Montgomery County Regional Pool
Yeah, it's a nice,
Center.
beautiful place that gives you if you live in Laurel,
You mean up on
PG,
Whiskey Bottom. No,
you
on-
get,
on-
you get
Whiskey
the
Bottom's a big-
reduced rate for the seniors.
And
Well,
I would have to throw
Not
out,
Whiskey Bottom, but it's,
Yeah, it's off of on 198.
no, it's
off of one-
Oh,
the one up
Gunpowder.
there,
Oh,
it's
it's
over
Gunpowder.
by,
Gunpowder. That's-
Yes.
Oh, Fairlawn,
Fairland, yeah. I mean,
and that was a facility that was being proposed initially because having a semi-Olympic sized pool allowed regional meets and allowed them to actually be able to offset some of the costs by hosting events here. Instead, the design was scaled down. Now it's almost non-existent. There's 600,000 on the design books. But that's another thing. Don't just ask for a pool. Be very specific for what
Gotcha.
kind of pool you expect.
and adding that
Where was it
purpose
supposed
on
to be
it.
put? Just general interest, because I have no clue. I never heard of a pool before in my life around.
You would have to listen to capital budget hearings and various community
Yeah,
meetings and so on and so forth.
I'm 80 years old and I've mostly worked in DC. That's an hour or more commute, driving every day, or even taking the train,
In the
which I
best
love
case
to do, is
scenario,
take
yeah.
the train. But you can't, if you gotta work odd hours, you can't take the train. You're gonna have to spend the night in the office.
But there was very strong support from the senior community for the senior functions of the pool, not just the lap, and there is a community interest.
The thing about it, when we over here on this section of Howard County go to use the facility in the neighboring county, we have to pay twice the amount.
Right.
That's where that's Calvin and company need to negotiate with those over there, that our people should be able to pay the same rate those neighboring places are paying. Because we are at a disadvantage down this end. And with the hot weather coming, I don't know what would happen. But the community here, yes, they are still looking forward for a swimming pool. So, Linda, that's how.
Bibi, I'm gonna need to leave. Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Folks here, it has nothing to do with the pool or anything, but I just happened to notice that when I turned to come into the community center here off of Whiskey Bottom Road, there's a whole plot of land that's just recently been cleared. I mean, like, cut down, decimated, trees taken out, everything. It looks like somebody's gonna be building something there, and then Howard County has all these stakes around it saying, preserve our forest, which I
And they
find
just cut
comical
down.
because they just knocked down all the trees to vacate the
They
land.
preserve
and now
it,
they
it's
want
no
to
more.
protect it. Does anybody know what's going, is that private land, or is somebody in the county doing something? Do we know anything about that?
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything off the top of my head, but I can look into it and see if we know what's going on. I think we have your email address. I can send you
Okay.
an email once I find it.
Just curious, if it's private, of course, it's none of our business, but if it's something the county's doing. But it looks like somebody called Howard County to put all of those forest retention signs around the perimeter after it.
The last time I saw Howard County. Police
They used to
Department.
be up on 216, they used to be stopped on Residential Road. Even if they didn't ticket anybody, the point
Yeah.
was that it would at least put the thought
Have a
in
presence
people's
there,
minds
yeah.
that there is a possibility. But now there isn't anything, there's just no proactive,
You're right.
right?
I have to.
So my
expand it,
question to
yeah.
you guys is there any way we can get any statistics to try to show the number of traffic stops or moving violations that the Howard County Police have given out in this area year over year to verify? Because this is just a perception on my part, and if you go to anybody in the county or whatever, they're gonna say, yeah, okay, we'll look into it. I went to Calvin Ball's hearing, he had his public session a few months ago and asked, but I brought this up, he referred it to the Howard County police officer who was there. The guy took my name, he said he'd look into it, never heard a darn thing from him, there's been no additional enforcement. Is there any way we could get any numbers to try to verify that it really has dropped tremendously over the years, and then go to the county, you know, people and just say, what the heck? You know? If you had some statistics, some numbers, then maybe I think you'd have a better chance of doing something other than it's just a citizen's perception that they're not around.
Okay, Brent, would like.
Well, to the gentleman's point, I'm a lifer here on Whiskey Bottom, know it very well, and all the local roads, but we'll use this as an example here. We did traffic studies here, had an average speed of 51 miles an hour through the collector road going through here not too long ago. I lost a child up here. It was a big deal for me. I was working with Jen Terrassa and Gazone during that period. And we came up with speed bumps are an absolute no-no in the design manual for a collector road. However, traffic calming was the new rage at the time, and we finally got some traffic calming measures up and down Whiskey Bottom. They consist of those islands you see with chokers or expanders that zigzag that in theory slow it down. And I will tell you from firsthand experience, because I've had cameras up there recording this for 20 years, it does work. And the average speed went down considerably after the installation of the ones in here. That was project J4076, and half the money was stolen out of it, and all the traffic calming devices for this side of Whiskey Bottom were never fully implemented. Now we have complete streets wanting sidewalks, bicycle lanes, and all these widening measures. That's great, except now they've implemented widening in areas with traffic calmers meant to constrain. They've effectively diluted the capability of the traffic calmers, and now I would imagine, and I could back it up with my footage, the average speed is going up considerably, and it is much more dangerous now, turning in and out, backing in and out, in anything of that sort. A little safer walking, I'll give it for the sidewalks, but for the road widening in areas where there are constraining devices is just counterintuitive. And I call it the sausage grinder. There will be people dying there in the not too distant future. To his point though, I haven't seen police doing patrol in 15 years here. And I make a special note of that. And that's okay. If traffic calming is working, more power to them. Every once in a while you see a Porsche go over the island, it's kind of funny. But it slows them down. But if you start disabling the mechanism of the traffic calming, then we're back to square one. Now we need officers, operating budget, capital budget, and all that. Or we start looking at these complete streets designs and make sure they are not in competition with the safety measures that are in place. And I could go on for hours, but I'll leave that for the room to absorb.
Anybody else have anything to say about roads or anything? All right.
Well, can I just address?
Yes, you go ahead.
It's Vince, right?
Yes.
So I just want to say, I attended that listening session, and you weren't the only one to bring that up, right? And that's something that we've heard over the last few months increasingly from more members of the community, both in this part of the county and other parts of the county as well. So I do think it's certainly gained a lot more attention in recent months. In terms of the statistics, there is this challenge of we don't necessarily know what we're not enforcing. So is something that with greater enforcement you might start to see the numbers reflected. But what is clear is the perception that you're presenting, that other community members have been presenting in recent months, is that just through their daily observations that is an increasing problem. And so it's definitely something we've taken note of over the last several months.
I mean, I get the point that, we don't want to weaponize the police, right? We don't want to militarize them. We don't need them terrorizing the community, But having a patrol officer around, even present, just visible somewhere, seems to be somewhat of a deterrent, you know? But when you, and I don't know why they can't even be just stationed at critical junctions or just just scattered around once in a while where you just see one sitting around. They seem to be pretty good if you call them on something.
Yeah.
But they seem to be order takers at this point. Like they'll stay hidden unless they're asked to do something. They don't seem to be proactive at all in trying to deter things from happening. And that seems to me, again, perception, that it starts at the top. Mm-hmm. Somebody at the top is giving them that kind of a walking orders to say, stay in your cubbyhole, and if somebody calls, go see what they want, but don't be visible, don't be a presence. And I just think that's, I get it with some of the stuff that's going on in the world today, that there's a perception of police officers, going out and looking for trouble, targeting people, that type of thing. We don't need that, but there must be a middle ground that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say also that county-wide, as Matt said, it's definitely been a problem of just the lack of the patrol enforcement like you were talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of that comes from the lack of police officers that the county has right now. Anytime you kind of like go on Facebook, you'll see a post from HCPD with their like $10,000 signing bonus, and you were recently doing a whole bunch of stuff like apply now and then you'll be ready and trained to start June 1st. So I would assume that's definitely one of the underlying causes. They're just having a really hard time recruiting officers, getting officers to stay in the county, and then even when they recruit officers, there's still a backlog just because then they have to train them and get them ready for patrol. And yeah, that's like a national issue right now, that a lot of counties, states, cities, everyone's kind of struggling with. But it is, as Matt said, it's definitely something that we're aware of. The police recently just did a internal restructuring, I guess. So they ended up pulling the community resource officers, I think that's what, the CROs, who do just that, a lot of the patrol, day-to-day activities. They ended up pulling a bunch of them off to move them to some other stuff just because of the lack of officers that they actually have right now. But I can definitely contact the Southern District with some of your questions about statistics, if that's something that they have, and then see if they could start getting somebody out to Whiskey Bottom again. Because like
even
I live
occasionally, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a routine. They don't have to be out there 24/7. But if you at least put the thought in somebody's mind that somebody might be there occasionally,
for sure.
It might have somewhat of an impact, right?
Yeah, it's been frustrating even for me. I live right off of Guilford, so very similar, I think, honestly, to Whiskey Bottom in terms of like the speeding. And so usually there's a police officer. There's like some little church parking lot. Usually there's like an officer there, like once every other week. And now it's like.
I don't know how much the cost would be, but I know the city of Laurel and Prince George's County has a lot of speed cameras, and they're there and they work. I've been caught more than one time with the speed. I keep telling people I never drive over the speed limit, and I haven't passed anybody since 1973, except an old lady driving a bicycle up the hill. But the ones that are movable, I mean, you could just spread, it's like they're on wheels, you just spread them around and they'll have to stay there forever, but to be a presence. But I don't know what the cost would be, I mean, for the whole county or even for
Anything
anyone.
else on road?
Just one last question I would have. I don't know, so the police department recently, in recent months, set up a traffic enforcement section that would be dedicated to speed enforcement. One of the things they've recently rolled out was an online reporting system specifically for speeding concerns, parking violation concerns, etc. I would be curious if you have the opportunity to use that system, what your experience was. Do you find that system to be a good method of reporting? Would you prefer other methods of reporting? What is the best way to, help you identify to the police department where you want to see that greater enforcement?
I would throw out, it's a combination. You have Department of Public Works handling the roads and the speed studies with the actual things versus the police and their metrics on capturing them. We need the combination. We need more.
It's been leveled.
Saying about that, as you mentioned that junction, coming to that junction, when you come out here from the community center, sometimes the traffic is flowing up and down, and you cannot come out. Sometimes you wait there for about 10 minutes, and people on the opposite side, 10 minutes. Have you guys ever stopped? This should be for you. Think about putting a traffic light there, just for certain time of the day. When it's like nighttime after 11 or so, here is closed, they could have the flashing light, people could go through. Because, tell you the truth, I don't know of any accident ever happened out there, but I could see that in time with people coming out of here.
It can be a challenge to pull
Yes.
out of here
So
at certain
a
times of
yes.
day.
So a traffic light might help down there. You guys might want to take that to talk about that, saying that on this property we talked about.
I'm sure they'll want to do surveys before they can.
Yes, they could do the survey.
I would say that's very desirable, but probably well below the threshold of what traffic engineering would consider a signalized
So you don't
intersection.
think it's useful, would be useful?
Oh,
to
I'm
have a
saying
light?
it's useful. I'm saying we're lucky to get a traffic light on Route 1 to go to the new high school.
go where?
To go to the new high school.
Is it off Route 1?
Yes, it
I had
is off Route
vision
1.
Somewhere
Uh-huh.
else.
It's like Route 1 in Guilford and Mission, if you go down Mission Road, like the property next to the quarry. There's like the Savage Stone Quarry.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's gonna be
Where they're doing
south.
the blasting, they're going to put a high school
Well,
there?
maybe that's the blasting.
Far enough away. But
It's already
to
there.
give you a general idea of where it is. That's right where it is. Right off Mission Road.
I don't know whether all the kids in this general area go to the schools up in Maple Lawn, or what used to be Maple Lawn Farms up there.
No longer. They've been
Okay.
redistricted.
Huh?
They've been redistricted to go to the new school.
Oh, they will be, new district.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know that they got all new schools up there, Reservoir High School and the grade school and the middle school, and there's a private school back there somewhere too. It seems like it's a private school back there, so.
Most of the students within the catchment area of this organization will go to Guilford Park, the new
Well, if they put
13th
another
high
couple
school.
of homes up in Maple Lawn, they'll all go to Reservoir, that'll be just for Maple Lawn.
Any
There's
other?
a lot of kids over
Is there
there.
any
There's a
other?
ton of kids in Maple Lawn.
Okay, are there any other business that
Amazing.
anybody would like to address? Any other issues?
What brought me out tonight, I was going down Baltimore Avenue towards 7th Street, that's how I get into the main street. And I saw the sign advertising the meeting, and it was just a little sign, and I was wondering, what's that sign? I went on to the store, and then I came down, I turned, and then I saw that, I took a picture of
Oh, it's time for this meeting?
for this meeting.
That's the same thing I did.
So that's why I came up. My concern right now are dogs.
Hmm.
On my street, there are so many dogs, and I don't mind dogs. I'm not a dog hater. I'm not a dog lover. I'm definitely afraid of them. But when I moved there, I think they had a sound ordinance because I didn't hear dogs barking. Then the dogs started barking at 6 a.m.
That's when they get let out. That's.
And, I know, and they bark straight on up until midnight.
Oh.
And
Okay.
then there, I see pit bulls creeping up.
What street do you live on?
I live on North Laurel Road.
North? Oh, okay, so you,
If you
You're
went
towards
there,
down the other end.
it's the hilly,
it's one straight hill. but if you
between
went
Baltimore Avenue and Route 1.
there- Say that again, between Baltimore Avenue.
Baltimore Avenue, Route 1, North Laurel Road. There's a
Joining by
winding
traffic
road,
light.
it's a single lane road going in each direction there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot where I was.
Yeah.
But I noticed, that there are more and more pit bulls creeping up, and I noticed it's not a forbidden breed, and it's a friendly dog, it has to do with how you.
Well, some of them are friendly and some of them are not. Every dog is different.
They
can't
have a temperament, and they do what they want to do, all dogs do, and that's why I'm afraid of dogs. But when you have a dog with the potential to kill you and wants to, it deters us from enjoying our homes and just walking up and down the street. I noticed yesterday a lady out walking her little small dog, no bigger than a Jack Russell, and the lady that's directly across from me, what do you call it when she keeps pit bulls. She fosters pit bulls. And so there's 3 little pit bulls in her yard, and of course they wanna be big dogs. So they're terrorizing these people, and they can't walk down the street. Now, I'm not gonna go out there at all because I don't want the encounter.
Yeah.
So, but something really needs to, because my neighborhood is not as pleasant as it was when I first moved in. And that concerns me. So I'm blaming it on the dogs.
Isn't the owner of the dog responsible for that?
If it's on their property, yes. With the barking issue, you can call animal control.
I did.
Yeah, but I know that they also won't always do something, so
I think
that's
when I called animal control, I think that's what got them out there, because the person received notification, and ever since then, he makes sure that dog is out at 6 a.m. He makes sure. And I'm sitting there because I log on at 6 a.m. and I was like, let's count down, 5, 4, 3, 2.
So it made it worse.
Yeah, it made it worse.
But, you were saying that because I posted the meeting on Nextdoor, and, they send me notification. This didn't happen in our area, but it happened just within a stone throw. A lady confronted the next lady with a dog, a poop on the ground, and she asked her to clean it up. The lady turned back and slapped her.
I read that.
In just brief. So the police is looking for the woman that slapped the woman.
Is there a maximum sound level for the dog? Like, I mean, if you could measure it, is there, or not?
I don't
Chihuahua
know.
can bite you just as bad as a pit bull can if you get close to it.
I don't think there's a sound level. I think that there is from what I understand, I am a dog owner, and I was jokingly saying the other night to my husband, I feel like I live in DC now because the alleys that are known for having dogs in the backyards, because the pandemic, lots more people got dogs. So we've got a ton of them, and they're out there barking, but we don't have a challenge with the timing and everything. But what I have read recently, because a lot of people are saying these sorts of things about the dogs, as long as the homeowner has the dog on their own property and they have water for the dog and they have shelter, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, that's the whole,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's
the
what-
temperature and everything, as long as all of those things, the dog is safe,
Yeah.
then it's really nothing that the next homeowner can do.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because that's what any animal control will look for, if you
Yeah.
call them, because my neighborhood, we have a German Shepherd who is like 90% of the time tied up to a tree in somebody's backyard.
That's horrible.
And exactly, and
Yeah.
he barks, which is super annoying. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's like clockwork every single
Yeah.
day. You know when they put the dog out, it's just barking. But yeah, same thing. Like we called animal control
Yeah.
once or twice just to make, because you never know, like could be abused, neglected of any
Yeah.
sort. But yeah, if there's food, water, no like visible signs of neglect, then unfortunately that is typically animal control's response.
Yeah.
Do the animals have to be registered in the county, or you could just get a?
So I know that the county has a process for registering animals and registering pets. The same way essentially that you would like apply for a permit to do construction on your home, is how you would get a permit for your pet. It's like a pet licensing fee, but I don't think that that's really enforced.
It's I had a neighbor who had actually a pit bull, and like, of course, Marco's blind, but I opened my car door and the dog actually jumped
know whether it's-
in on me.
I don't know that it's
And,
fine,
you know,
too.
and the dog was not registered, hadn't had any shots or anything, and described, so it was not good
Mhm.
situation. So.
Yeah, we can, I can definitely look into what, more information about just like the general animal licensing fee, cause it's more than
It's like
just
$25.
dogs. Yeah, but just looking into like that process, and then if there's any enforcement surrounding it, how that would work, if other jurisdictions do something different, just to see.
But do they have to get rabies shots and stuff like that, the dogs? Because if they bite you,
I mean, I think yes, but that's also like very like pet owner to pet owner. Like my
I've forgotten,
dogs,
we had
my dogs
dogs
are
all my
all
life, and I don't remember, well, I always had all their pets licensed, but I don't remember whether, and I had them all with rabies shots, because that's just good practice from the owner's perspective anyway. But I don't know whether there's any law one way or the
Yeah,
other.
yeah, I'm not sure if there's a law, if there's anything that requires.
alright.
One last big, more frequent speed studies done throughout here as we're changing road geometries.
Yeah, actually, I just looked into that recently for some speeding concerns in Savage. And it seems like now Public Works is actually, and it's a new program, so I don't exactly know how it works, but the Public Works is hoping that they can use the data from the traffic enforcement reporting system essentially to, I can't remember, to like support a study or to support projects and changes to kind of help take some of the traffic study lift off of their side. I don't know how that's actually been working so far, just because it is a new program, but they are hoping to rely a little bit more on that sort of tool, and then use that to inform their decision on whether they're going to pursue traffic studies or not. So there's a good and a bad. It's nice that there's a formal system.
If there is nothing else on the road system, can we talk about vagrancy? Vagrancy, I don't know if you guys experience any vagrancy around the area, but I did. Like I said before, around the 7-Eleven area and on Pilgrim Road, where especially it's going to warm up now, it's going to increase. Where a lot of people go like they squat and they go and hang out and along Road 1. A lot of people like panhandling, and not only panhandling, but when people going to buy gas at the gas station, the people will hide out in these little corners, and then they show up at the customers at the gas pump. So we need to look into the vacancy increase, especially if it's getting warm. I don't know if anybody here, noticed that.
I have noticed an increase.
Okay. So, okay.
Well, I can throw out on that subject. We got hyper involved with that when they were building the Day Resource Center. But in general, we have quite a few vacant buildings up and down the Route 1 area. There is obviously an intent from the development community to get us all up route and let's bulldoze them and they'll solve the problem. But really, there was a bill going through and it needs more meat on its bones, which is dealing with purposeful neglect. We all know Sango's been leaving all these buildings wide open, let vagrants go in there, set fires, congregate in there, get the community. And if we were actually enforcing the purposeful neglect rules better, there would be a lot less of that component going on. And the community just in general would be more appreciative. I would like to steer our attention toward those sorts of things which have a net positive for the community. The Hearst is owned by the county. It should be used for a public good. It's been allowed to sit vacant or be used for rogue car washes and things of that nature. You got Aero Lab also. Some of these are semi-historic structures, even if they're not
Aero Lab has
beautiful.
been vacant for 20 years
Yeah.
at least. if
Yeah,
not longer
I
than
know.
that.
But they've been allowing purposeful neglect. There's other historic buildings back there, which the owners have been hopeful that they'll get upzoning in order to take care of the vagrancy, as opposed to just taking care of the issues. And last but not least, we all know that, or we don't know, on a state road, there are certain areas where you can drop people off and things can't be enforced by county police and so on and so forth. And they definitely take advantage of it. And it is what it is. But you can look any Sunday morning at the roller skate rink and seeing buses coming in and dropping off people from out of area. I think that is something that we need to look at, is how much are we actually purposefully creating issues where we're transferring people in and out of regions just to roam.
The vagrancy in my area is Pilgrim Road. Not only they're there with the shopping carts, but a lot of time they dump stuff. Like in the winter months I saw a couch there. And a lot of stuff that was there, clothes and bags of this and bags of that. So we need to start looking to that area to where they're moving from it. I don't know where they're coming from, but they find comfort out there in my area. Sometimes you might see a few on Stansfield Road by where they have the Stansfield Road is below 95. Coming down on that little embankment from 95, you would see a few down there, and sometimes people would go there and hide out. Maybe they sleep there in the summertime, but you could see traces of that. And I think one of the reasons why, back to this stuff, because of the incomplete noise barrier. Because if they're on that 95, they can't walk down on that embankment because it's enclosed. But on the one side, they could walk down. On the other side is a noise barrier, they cannot do that. So, but they come down on that one area, and not only that, when they come down on that one area, they penetrate around the place, and that's what happened. And it's because of that incomplete place there. Because I remember, this happened about 4 years ago, Janet told me somebody came down. It seems as though they got dropped off on 95 and came down that embankment and was about to get into her house. When she started to scream, they run up there and disappear. Run up the embankment because apparently somebody must be up there waiting on the on the shoulder of the road. That incomplete nice barrier there need to be addressed. I think that's in Deb's area.
So 95 is the dividing line for the
Yeah.
southern, yeah, correct?
Yes, it's in
Mhm.
the 95.
Dividing
So
line for what?
once-
Between our
The
districts.
two
Yeah.
districts.
Yeah.
The two districts, so
Yeah.
District
Oh,
3
okay.
is on one side and District 4 is on the other.
Yeah, actually, I'm just 4 houses away from there on that line. They're about 4 houses away from there. So they could testify about this incomplete nice barrier that helps penetrate some vagrancy there. And I don't know, I don't want to point finger to PG County. I don't know where they're coming from, but they come into that area, rip it one by one. A few times I saw a few around Wise Market, Wise Supermarket, and I wanted to call the cops, but I said, you know what, everybody needs to live, but not like that. Go to a shelter and get some comfort elsewhere, where you'll be more protected, even in the cold weather. So, that's something we need to know. Is there any vagrancy still out this way on Route 1?
Is there what?
Any vagrancy up by Route 1? You know when you come out on North Laurel by those big buildings? You
Not
still
that
see
I've
them?
noticed.
Okay, that area clean up then.
There's
is-
pretty regular, and it's like I described. You have various social services dropping off people to do panhandling in the state road area.
Social services dropping them off? Why?
Various nonprofits.
Hmm.
During the day, most of the shelters tell them, leave,
Right.
go keep yourself occupied, and you can come back in the evening. And this is going to be a bigger issue as Guilford Park opens, and there is a considerable pocket of area that is frequented there, and there will be a lot of children in that general area.
Area right outside here was packed when I came in.
I mean, it begs to the larger issue, how you handle homelessness and things of that nature. But, you know, you do see procedures where they say, go out to the community and wander for the day. And, you know, then that's usually the type of activities that follow.
So I want to clarify your statement. This area, when you came in, was packed with what?
Well, it's playing basketball and things across the street, and the basketball courts. They
So
weren't,
that would be
they weren't hanging
expected,
out, they were
right?
good
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, just making sure, because I saw quite a few
Um,
young people, which I would expect coming into this.
Yeah, well, that's what it's there for, and
Yeah.
they, at least today, certainly use it, but it.
Yeah.
What about your area?
Yes, what was my area?
Yeah, what about your area? Have you noticed vagrancy or
No,
anything?
I don't notice vacancy so much, but, I work from home most of the time. We just started going back to work, so for the past 10 years or so, I have been inside my house. I don't see too much going on. But what I do know, is I go to the Amish market over on 198 quite a bit. And, I live 1 block into Howard County from Main Street. And there's a couple of hotels over on 2nd Street that have way too much traffic, way too much activity. And by me being a native Washingtonian, I can spot certain things. And there's a lot of that going on down there. And
I totally agree with you.
yeah, and the place looks horrid. Somebody was washing windows in one of those inns down.
The general plan's going on. There's lots of interesting things in there. And speaking of number of dogs, there is accessory dwelling units in there, which could allow additional houses on every single lot around here, as well as missing middle housing, which could allow up to 6-unit apartments on every house here. how do we provide feedback, and when's the best time, and what's the most appropriate way to provide feedback on those provisions in the general plan?
I guess probably the easiest way, you can send an email. It would go to both of our council members and then 3 other council members. It's just councilmail@howardcountymd.gov. But you can submit testimony there. Right now, there's sort of a pause on general plan for budget, and then the work sessions will start up again June 7th, I think. Early June, the work
After
sessions.
budget.
Yeah, after early June, yeah, the work sessions start up again. You can register to testify at the work sessions. I think there are 3 or 4 public hearings. There's 3. There are 3 public hearings for the general plan. So you can sign up there or send emails in.
And obviously, that was a little loaded question because I do legislation for PTA. I'll be there. But community members need to know what's going on
Yeah.
too. And let's face it, as much as some people know every inch of the general plan, for every one of those, there's 20 others that are just discovering it
That was
for the
me.
first time.
Yeah, it's really,
I heard something, and it may be baloney, that they were gonna make a law that you couldn't have a single house on a lot anymore. It was gonna be, everything had to be a townhouse.
If you don't mind, you will have the ability to put things there.
Oh,
You can't
somebody will.
restrict
If you have
it.
the ability to
You
put it
can't
down.
restrict it to a single house.
Well, you know that every developer is gonna have 3 or 4 townhouses on every vacant lot, wherever they are. Just because that's the way developers are.
I'll reserve my comments.
Huh? Well,
I'll say also, a lot of the accessory dwelling unit and stuff, when you look at some of the research behind it, a lot of it stays local, if that makes sense, like between family members. So if you are in a single family house, and your parents are getting older and retiring, maybe there's some health challenges, that would kind of give the opportunity for you as a homeowner to have an apartment in your home for parents, where you could help take care of them, sort of be more involved in that process, just because I don't think anyone really likes the idea of like always putting parents like in a home far away. And especially in Howard County, there's a huge lack of affordable senior housing. We are getting some senior housing built, but it is not at all affordable. So that's one of the big perks of it. I'm thinking about how, especially like I'm a young person in Howard County. I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford to purchase anything. So yeah, there are some benefits, and obviously it is something that the council, while going through general plan and then making legislation afterwards, needs to be mindful of, just because it could be a situation, where developers can very easily take advantage of it, and suddenly it's just like townhouse, 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 and on top of each other. But just, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about climate control and all that stuff, and they're gonna take all the grass away and put houses on it. Doesn't seem to work, from my mind. That's a good thing about the deal.
Yeah, so thankfully, specific to the general plan, a lot of it does not focus on cutting down trees and getting rid of our green space and getting rid of our open space. A lot of it is the smart growth sort of thing, of figuring out how we can repurpose what's already developed land, and not expand, just because your point, you're 100% correct. Climate is a huge issue, and it's something that we all really need to be paying a lot more attention to. So yeah, you're completely right.
but my complaint is they put houses everywhere,
Yeah,
but the infrastructure, roads, doesn't go with that. I mean, there's no that Maple Lawn is a perfect example. There's a big farm that's been there forever. We used to buy our turkeys there for
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
same,
Yeah, yeah.
same.
But the roads haven't changed much around Maple Lawn, on 216. I think they have widened it from 29 all the way up, sort of past Fulton.
Yeah,
But
but
that's
then I
about
think
it.
once you get past the Maple Lawn Farms, like we get the turkeys,
Yep.
then it
One-
all
one- one
goes
lane,
back,
yeah.
yep.
Anyhow, if there is no other business,
I just have one question. The general plan, how is that viewable? Is that on the county website? Is there a link to that, or
It has its own website, it's hocobydesign.com,
Hoco by Design?
I think. I don't think it's a .org. But yeah, hocobydesign.com. And you are more than welcome to read the entire plan.
Yeah.
It's like hundreds of pages. They also recently put little videos. They're like a
Oh,
minute
nice.
long maybe, just kind of going over each of the chapters. So that might be a really good tool. Because, you know, then if there's a chapter, like there's a chapter on the Route 1 corridor. So that can definitely help kind of like pinpoint some things you might be interested in.
Route 1 is a very interesting road.
Mhm.
I have another
It
question.
really-
Look, sorry.
It really is.
Is there any reason, or is it a design, that there's no incorporated cities, towns in Howard County, except maybe Ellicott City is, but I don't even know whether
I
they
don't
are or
think
not.
it is.
I
Yeah,
mean, Ellicott
honestly-
City's been there since the Civil
Right.
War, or beyond, before that. That was washed away,
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know if there's a reason why. I was just thinking about that
Yeah, I was
the
just-
other day, actually.
Having more local responsibility and development might help alleviate a lot of problems, because you don't have to go to Ellicott City to discuss any of those things, whatever they may be.
You do know if there's a reason
I mean, I don't want to be mayor of North Laurel by any stretch of the
why? Maybe you
imagination.
could.
I'm too old. I'm 80 years old. I'm done.
Just for the history lesson, Ellicott City had a mayor for quite a few years in the 1800s, but it wasn't incorporated. And Columbia, by design, wasn't incorporated because of interest in bringing that tax base from the entire county and putting resources within the Columbia district without additional cost to the development of it. So for a little while, all the scattering communities were building the infrastructure for the
Well,
core.
Columbia seems to be growing leaps and bounds every day you look there. I mean, up in North Laurel is the Columbia Horse Center, for example.
That's where NT zoning,
Huh?
that's the border of NT zoning. So that's where Columbia ends.
Yeah.
And what is NT zoning?
Newtown,
Newtown.
it's the zoning or the zoning code for Columbia, Columbia proper. Yes.
if there is no other business,
I actually have one thing maybe, and if you got, I was thinking about the pool again, and, when the suggestion was, you know, could we have some sort of special arrangement with like, the
Fairland.
You know, and I think about like the closest, like it's inconvenient for you to drive to Columbia to go to the pool, or definitely Ellicott City, but I'm like, even if you wanted to go to like the association pools, unless I'm incorrect, like you still have to pay additional for the privilege of driving yourself over there to
Of
use
course.
their pool, and I'm like, can't we do something about that? Because we're in the county, you know, if I'm gonna drive over there to use the pool or any of like the sports facilities, can't we, you know, get some sort of reciprocal rate?
Yeah, we can definitely look into how So I think you said Prince George's County residents get the discount for Montgomery County pools?
For the Fairland.
For the
Fairland. Fairland is in
So,
PG County. That's the
Okay.
closest one,
Yeah.
that's a bigger one.
Is it PG?
But
But they have
PG,
a mini-
it sits in Montgomery, but it gives the PG County residents of Laurel
Oh, the discount.
the discount, the in-county rate.
So yeah, that's definitely, we can look into it, of just how that agreement was negotiated, what that contract is, and if there's a
I'm
way.
not
to
sure
expand
that
to
pool,
Laurel.
Fairland pool
Howard County.
structure is even in Montgomery County.
No, that is Montgomery County. It sits in Montgomery County.
If you go across 198, across,
I mean, it might be right on the line, because I have friends who
That's where
own
the
homes right on the
division
other
is
side
really
of it, and it's
confusing.
Montgomery County.
Yeah.
well, it's close.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know exactly.
So maybe half and half, because
I don't
it's
know
a
what-
huge structure, and that might be why Laurel,
Because that one-
Laurel PG gets
What,
it.
there's a, if you know 198 there, past Whiskey, now, why do I want to call that Whiskey Bottom
Gunpowder
Road?
Road
It's
you're
not,
talking about?
Gunpowder.
there's a
Gunpowder
bar there,
Road.
and that's basically the
And with the
Montgomery
shell
County
is on the other
line.
side, yeah.
You know the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I can't think of the
I've been
name
to
of
the
that.
bar, no.
there, and you can see right through it, and they're not kept up. The people that hang there are undesirables, to put it nicely. And I just think it's a den of ill repute. And it's kind of close to my house, and I don't like it.
Well, all of Route 1 has been a problem for me forever.
Yeah. Right. And
They seem to want to do good work, and they got rid of the trailer park in between the Route 1. And then they put a bunch of junk in there. And the car dealers and the junk yards and everything else still is sitting on Route 1. And I live 2 blocks off of Route 1, so that's been a problem for me. I know some of those motels are basically homeless shelters.
Yeah.
Uh, 1 or 2 night stays, but they're there all the time. And I don't know if there's anything you can do about that. It's legislated, I guess, but enforcing it is a bigger problem. So,
I see more trafficking than I do homelessness.
more traffic than.
More trafficking, that's a
Yeah.
awful.
It is.
Route 1 has been a problem for trafficking of all kinds of things forever,
Yeah,
as far as that's
that's what
concerned.
I'm saying, they just traffic
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, all you have to do is drive up and down Route 1 and you go, there's the hookers.
They're still here?
I'm
I haven't
sorry?
seen them in a while. I used to see them every Sunday.
I think it got, there was a whole raid or something a couple years ago there.
They regularly return and regularly raid, and it's almost comical when you hear the yearly raid and they catch 34 people, and then you wait a
But
year,
I think
year
that
later.
whole industry has been revamped and it's under a new rule. So you don't have independent contractors anymore, if you will. It's back to pimps and small girls.
Oh, my.
And I know that's what they're doing there, because I can see it. And it's getting progressively worse. A lot of drug dealing, you know, and it needs to be brought to bear.
Can I suggest something about the homeless people or the unfortunates, I call them? How about during the day, you got classes where you get them into programs, where they could learn skills and learn things that they could better themselves, than putting them, tell them to wander around or let them leave the premise. If they could have some organized classes, that might help solve the problem, because when their minds are occupied and their hands are occupied, they would think different. So rather than say, well, okay, it's daytime, you need to leave and go somewhere where? Well, you're going to classes. That's what when you come in these shelters you go to. And like the people on the street, if they refuse to go into these shelters and get into classes, then we look for something that they like and start taking it from them like a child. And maybe they may start to yield. That's what my suggestion is, because if you don't have skill and some hope, how are you going to survive? Now that's some
So
skills and hope.
I would proffer, I know a couple owners of the hotels, they get their federal vouchers, they perform the service of providing emergency shelters and things of that, and it is a needed service. But we should be very cognizant that it isn't a look the other way thing. We need to make sure the code in the hotels and areas is kept up. Beachcrest, notorious place where they accepted the code vouchers, but they were not performing any of the maintenance for the individuals that were there. Makes it very profitable if you don't have to perform the maintenance component. But if you do the maintenance thing, at least it brings up the value within the community. It keeps things within a little better standards and makes it a lot less likely to become the trafficking houses.
All right, so anything else to talk about homelessness, vagrancy, or whatever? Linda brought up the issue. I told her to come. She would have to speak for herself.
About vagrancy?
Not a vagrancy, but a swimming pool.
I can't think of the name, my grandkid, too. I don't know what the.
Yeah, I know.
I think the road name is McHugh.
I'm sorry?
McHugh.
That sounds familiar.
MCKEW.
I'm sorry, I can't understand.
I think it's a little beyond McHugh.
Huh?
McHugh.
Yeah.
By Tubby's Diner, that's where the borderline is.
Tubby's is the
Diner.
county line.
That's where the county line
Okay.
is. Tubby's Diner. Anyhow.
But I don't know where it zigs and zags all the way to the.
Exactly. I
Anyhow,
grew
if
up
there's
in
a lot of
Tacoma Park
business,
and you're here and you're.
Thank you,
This was
Beebe.
great. I'm glad I came.
Can we adjourn the meeting?
How often do
Meeting is
you have these
adjourned.
meetings?
We have meeting once a month here, but sometimes it's board meeting. Sometimes they're board meeting and sometimes it's community meeting. So if we have issues, people tell me about issues and whatever, I try to arrange a meeting with the county, ask the county to come out and invite the public to come out to address the issues.
I was just curious.
Yeah, it's once a month, the first Tuesday in the month. And sometimes it's board meeting, but once I have your address there, I'll keep you informed when it's general meeting and when it's board meeting. So that's how we do it. Perhaps we could have a next meeting maybe around September, or if any emergency come out. But I haven't sat with the board as yet to know what we would do with National Night Out. So that might take some things off, or maybe, and then, or maybe the end of early July we could have a meeting, general meeting. It all depends. If people start telling me about issues, we need to have a meeting. We have issues, we need to come out. And normally what I tell people, if you submit an issue, be here. And so your issue could be addressed, and bring your people with you who you know is involved with these issues. So we have the feedback for the county people. If you're not here, you're not represented because you're not telling them yourself. I can't be the one telling, come out. I'm just the person, the organization, not me. The organization brings the two sides together to ratify issues. So basically that's what we do. So if you have an issue, just let me know and we could arrange. That is why on that I put, it has a section, submit issues for further discussion. It's on that paper. So we hear first Tuesday of the month. And where you saw the sign has my phone number, so you could call or email. It's me who put the sign there.
Okay, I got a picture of that sign.
Sorry?
I said, I now have a picture of that sign.
Well, you know what happened? Somebody maliciously,
I saw that.
somebody maliciously, destroyed 3 of my signs.
I saw that.
And, you know something, say a prayer for them, that's all.
I mean, you're
Because they
talking
didn't
about
do
your
me
sign?
anything.
Talking about the sign on Baltimore Avenue?
No,
No.
elsewhere, somebody, destroyed my sign, and it happened just near to where I'm living.
They destroyed it on Baltimore Avenue too.
I'll
And you're
come
not
there
even
on
running for
Thursday.
office.
Well, I
I'll
was
be
thinking
there
that
on
it was
Thursday.
the
I'll be
wind the
there
other day
Thursday
that blew
to
that
pick it up.
sign
Okay.
off the
That might be
pole,
it.
but I don't know whether that's true or not.
I'll be there to see what happened on Thursday, I'm picking them up. But, somebody maliciously destroyed 3 of them because it happened, I put it out there Thursday, and when I went back the Saturday morning to say I would move them and put them around the place, they were torn down, and how I know, because if it was the wind or the rain, it might have done all this, the same damage, if it was the wind or the rain. One of the pins was being torn out from the ground and tossed aside. The next time, I could see like somebody pulled the paper out and tear it and throw it aside. And the next one, I don't know where it disappeared to. Anyhow, thanks for coming out, and the meeting is adjourned.
Yeah,
I have one
I noticed it on my way over here that the notice was missing from the sign.
Oh, maybe the rain or the wind.
I don't know.
I'd just like to know you all's names. And if you're District 3 or 4, or, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't get off work until 6:30, so.
No
Even though I'm
worries.
dressed like this.
Yep, so.
Work from home.
My name's Matt Blum, so I work under District 8 in Councilmember Deb Young's office.
Okay.
District 4.
Okay, super.
I'm Paige Golsher.
I'll take that from you.
I am the district aide for Councilwoman Rigby,
Yes.
which is
Okay.
Who represents this side of 95 and versus the other side of 95?
95 to here is District 3, and then the other side, like,
West of 95
Thank you.
is only south of, Brent, you might know this better than me, south of 216, right, would be District 4.
South
little
of
bit.
216?
South of 216 and west of 95.
That's like gibberish.
Okay.
it's like,
It's hard to figure.
Yeah.
That seems like it's a little salami slice.
It really is. If I could show you the map, it